Mayor Pro Tem John Capocha.
Here.
Councilmember Rachel Arizmendi. Councilmember Denise Del Mar.
Here.
And Councilmember Jean Goss.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum. You may proceed with city business.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Goss is going to lead us in the pledge and the inspiration.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I don't really have prepared remarks tonight. I kind of wanted us all just to think back to last week, last Wednesday, last Thursday, and try to capture in our minds and our hearts the spirit that we all saw during our 4th of July festivities. Our town was on full display in its very best, and it was just another fun, wholesome, happy time in this city. And we've had a lot of those lately, and I hope to have a lot more, and we hope that all our public meetings will always be conducted in that light as well. Mr. Reno, I'd like to hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the inspiration. I'll take a motion for approval of the meeting agenda unless there are any changes.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And the minutes. Any changes to the minutes? If not, then I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Mayor and City Council reports. I will start on my right. Mayor Del Mar, or Councilmember Del Mar.
Nothing for me.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No, nothing for me either. Oh, I do want to just comment. Yeah, we did attend. It was last night, the Chamber of Commerce meeting that we had here to talk about Kirsten Court. So I thought it was a pretty good meeting. Councilmember Goss was there as well, and it's a good meeting. I think we got some good feedback that will guide us to move ahead quickly, I hope.
Good.
So.
Good. Thank you for going. There, you want to go?
I'll go. Just, Councilmember Goss said it very well and about our 3rd and 4th of July celebrations, but a special thank you to PD, FD, staff, all the volunteers, Sierra Madre Community Foundation, Kiwanis, Civic Club, Pony. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of other folks, but really it was just, there's so much pride that I have, and I know that our town has when we see our events that are celebrated in the way that they were on the 3rd and the 4th. So thank you to everyone.
And I did attend the meeting that Mayor Pro Tem talked about with the about the Kirsten Court situation. I agree. I think we got a very well attended meeting, and I think people laid it out there, and I think we got a real good idea of what where we're going to go on that. And then after I went to, I was actually invited to participate. I didn't participate. I was kind of a guest, I guess, on the Sierra Madre Library Foundation Board meeting. And I mentioned them earlier in a previous meeting. They're out there working to try to put together plans ultimately to bring to us about a new library in this city. And they are making a lot of progress on it. And they are asking us to set aside some time on the 2nd meeting of September so that they can bring in a presentation to us. And so I'd like to formally ask for that to be agendized if we could.
Okay. Yeah, I would just echo all the thanks and congrats to all the volunteers and city staff that made the 4th of July weekend, or Wednesday and Thursday, felt like a weekend, happen. It was outstanding as usual. So thanks again for that. We'll move on to public comment for items not on the agenda.
Hello, good evening. My name is David Kim. I'm with Senator Portantino's office. I'm the new district representative in the office, and I wanted to come out personally and introduce myself to the mayor, the city council, as well as city staff and to the community. So again, my name is David Kim. I look forward to serving your community and getting to know both the needs and hopes and communicating that to the senator's office. The senator did want me to let you know that he personally thanks all of you as well as the city for being so hospitable to him this past week when he attended the city's 4th of July parade. So thank you so much for welcoming him as well as providing for him to have a great experience in your city. I'm also here to share an event that's coming up in July 18th. The Senator's office as well as Supervisor Catherine Barger's office is hosting a event/workshop called Stop Senior Scams. This event has been shared before, and I'm coming out again to invite the community to attend. And this especially is helpful for seniors to become educated and as well as know what to do in the case of potential scams or in the events of concerns, how to properly conduct themselves as well as reach out for resources that will help them. So I do have copies and flyers to invite the community, and I'll leave that with the city staff here. So again, my name is David Kim, and I'm really glad to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kim, if you wouldn't mind, leave your business cards for us as well.
Yes,
Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Any other comments for items not on the agenda? If not, we'll move to our consent calendar. It's just one item. So, Madam City Clerk.
Mayor, this evening for consideration is Resolution 1932, approving certain demands. It is recommended that the City Council approve Resolution 1932 for the approval of payment of city warrants in an aggregate amount of $327,684.56, library warrants in the aggregate amount of $7,703.05, and the payroll transfer in the aggregate amount of $399,325.45 for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2019 and 2020.
Thank you. Any questions on the warrants?
Just one little question / comment. I see the $8,000 for the Playhouse. Is that the money we approved last time?
That's correct, Mayor Pro Tem. They actually have already picked up the check and signed the contract.
Well, thank you for moving so fast on that. I'm sure they're really happy about that.
Yeah. We'll open this up for public comment questions. And seeing none, we have a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are approved unanimously. We'll move on to our public hearing, consideration of the ballot results for our 218 process. And I believe this is the city manager, or is it the city clerk?
City clerk.
City clerk, okay. I thought it was actually.
I don't know, let me see.
Yeah.
Thank you. This evening, the City Council is being asked to conduct a public hearing to consider the adoption of a resolution confirming the ballot results for the conclusion of the Proposition 218 that is being concluded this evening. The Proposition 218 Council approved the Proposition 218 back on May 14th at that council meeting. And this evening, we are asking council to conclude the public hearing so that we have NBS, the consultants that were contracted by the city, to help in the tabulation of those Proposition 218 ballots.
Great, thank you. And how it's going to work is we're going to open the public hearing after questions, if there are any, and then we're going to move on to other items while our consultants actually count them, and then we'll come back and close the public hearing. And well, I guess we'll open, close, and then you guys can count and then tell us what the results are. So, any questions before we do that?
How long is it going to take to count them?
About 45 minutes, maybe less.
And just a matter of transparency is because it's not just a matter of counting individual ballots, you have to, I understand, enter them into a spreadsheet to do the scoring based on the points, linear feet, and all that. So is that open for public inspection, or how do we make sure that this is so transparent to?
Do you guys mind going to the microphone just so we pick it up on the TV?
Yeah, so the city's gonna need to maintain the actual ballots for a minimum of 2 years.
Mhm.
And then we will also provide a copy of the tabulation spreadsheet to the city so that it'll be open for public inspection
Okay,
once completed.
okay, great. Can the public even just after the meeting today come and look at it?
Sure,
I'm just
yeah.
curious, okay.
So
If
it is weighted by a dollar amount though. So
Yeah.
that's the way it's gonna work. It's not just a simple counting of yes or no's. It's the actual weighted value of each ballot by dollar.
Okay. Would it be worth it to review how it works again? I mean, I've read it and it's kind of complicated. Is that, what do you think? Is that?
I mean, I think it's fair.
What specifically? I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, just how somebody casts a vote and how their vote is weighted and valued versus the neighbor next door,
Certainly. So the assessment's calculated based upon, building square footage, linear frontage, actual property characteristics, as well as land uses. And then furthermore, once we've calculated the assessment amount, which is laid out in the assessment methodology there in the engineer's report that we prepared, once those dollar amounts are calculated, they're assigned to each parcel. And then at the proceeding tonight, each parcel's weighted dollar amount of their annual assessment amount, rather, will be the driving factor. So if there's a yes vote for, say, a dollar amount of $1,500, that would be a weighted vote of that dollar amount for the final proceeding here.
So that'd be 1,500 for that person, the person next to it is 1,200,
Correct.
and you add it all up, the yes votes versus the no, and the 51%, 51% of dollars is higher, then it passes. Okay, good.
51% of the weighted vote. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
The question was, how many ballots are there?
There's 178 ballots. No problem.
Great. Any other questions?
So just as a matter of clarification, there were 178 ballots issued but not received. The ballots that have been received received into this box, and it's remained in the city clerk's office locked. So tonight, once the public hearing closes, we'll open the box and tabulate the ballots. They're all in here as they were sealed, as they were received.
And to be clear, on the majority protest, is it the majority of the votes that were actually cast?
Correct.
It's not of the total potential vote, right? So,
Correct. Yes, it's
Okay.
just the votes cast.
Great. We'll open up for public comment, and we can ask questions too if there's any that come up after this.
It's not significant, but I just wondering now, if they didn't vote, does it mean that doesn't, the only ones that count are the ones that actually voted? So if
Correct.
they didn't vote, then, so it's either yes or no, it's all right in there, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll bring it back. And any other further discussion or questions before we close the public hearing?
No, just anxiously awaiting.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Okay, we'll close the public hearing and allow you guys to count. So thank you very much. Are you going to do it right here, or? Okay, great. Well, while you do that, we'll move on to item number 3, which is a discussion of our public facility fees. And I believe this is the city manager?
That's correct, Mayor. I am going to try and fill in for both our Public Works Director and Community Services Manager this evening. At the last council meeting, we tried to prioritize Quimby fees, park impact fees with council, and council asked us to remove some items to not use the funds for land acquisition, for example, or routine maintenance, to add an item to refurbish bathrooms, and also provide information if any other funding was available. That is attachment A. And we maintained the scoring key from urgent high priority maintenance to funded amenity. And the only other available source of funding outside of the Quimby impact fees are what's known as maintenance and servicing funds from the county. The balance of those funds is about $160,000. We believe all these projects qualify, but the county has yet to approve them for reimbursement. But they all were built with Proposition A funds, and that's the only factor to qualify to get the M&S funding. So with that, we're happy to take any questions you have.
Quick question. City Manager, have we heard back yet from the county regarding the elevator repair and whether they're going to approve that as a Prop A?
The county requested that we send the plans to them that we had in our possession for their review. We've sent that to them. We have not heard a response yet. We did explain to them that we built the Youth Activity Center, the second floor of the community center, with the Prop A funds, and the only reason we include an elevator in that building is to reach the Youth Activity Center. And they did say that that was a compelling case, but we haven't heard back yet.
Okay, so the list of amenities you marked as funded here, so that's what I'm just confused if the balance that we have that you listed here includes that 40,000 or not. The balance is 280,000. Is that after subtracting 40,000?
That's correct, Mayor Pro Tem. That's after subtracting the 40,000. The total fees are 320,000, but when council approved the current fiscal year budget, 40,000 of those funds were for pool amenities upgrades.
Okay, so the high end of the total of everything is really, we should subtract that one, I'd say, and so the unfunded stuff is 342,000
On the high end, yes, that's
on the
correct.
high end. Okay, so worst case scenario, we have how much? 280, 340, so we're $60,000 short, and so it's very likely of that 160,000 coming from the county, we should be able to get 60,000 of that minimum, right?
I hope you're not jinxing us, but yes, I believe that to be true.
Okay, so, I mean, the point I'm just trying to make is it looks like all of this is likely to be funded, but you'll pick off the high priority stuff first, and then it's a choice of, I don't know what falls out at the bottom, the parking, or what would be the lowest priority amongst here if we didn't get any of that funding? Would that be the parking? That would balance it. If you subtracted the parking, we'd have enough to do everything else, I suppose.
That's correct. We view the parking as equal to some of the other items. It's an upgrade. It is an area of need.
Yeah.
But the other items like the AC or things like that, even though they're ranked the same, would probably take priority.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I don't know if everybody else agrees, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think staff would make a argument that the bathrooms would be lower on the totem pole.
We might have before last week's council meeting.
What about the siding painting? Is that, I mean, again, it's a score of a 2, but in relation to parking, I mean, the cost is different, but.
The Councilmember Arizmendi, the siding and painting, similar to the stairs and rust, is seen as a maintenance item that if we don't take care of, it'll likely lead to a larger expenditure down the road. Whereas parking, we could fund at a later time.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
For repair decking, so the low estimate is 5,000 and the high estimate is 50,000. So that's a wide spread. So like for 5,000, do you just get a couple nails or what?
In other words, you just don't know at all? Or?
We've done a visual inspection so we can see the cracking, and if there's no damage beyond the cracking that we can just see from observing it, it'll be on the low end. If when we start looking at it, the cracking has gone deep or is spread or is under a building, then it's going to be a higher cost.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And just for full transparency, we've taken out of this matrix the money set aside for land acquisition, correct?
One of the potential uses with the Quimby fees is parkland and open space acquisition, and we're no longer having that as a consideration. That's correct.
Great. Okay, we'll open this up for public comment, questions. And seeing none, bring it back. Any discussion?
Just one quick comment. I am concerned that the bathrooms are a lower priority. I mean, I do really believe that they ought to be right up there. And I'm not quite sure why they're listed number 2, even though it looks like we're gonna get everything funded.
The bathrooms we have listed as a high priority, but we don't consider them like ADA non-compliant with the elevator, or the rust in the stairs could cause the stairs to fail.
Okay, so in other words, there's safety issues or legal issues that are butting
Correct.
up against the bathrooms.
Correct. Council asked us last time to have number one be a public safety consideration, so that's how we marked it.
Safety trumps disgustingness.
Yeah, but I thought we all agreed that not having soap was a public safety risk.
Well, do you want to update us on your staff's assessment of the bathrooms?
So we, Public Works Director and I visited every bathroom to make an assessment, and I've actually been to the bathroom specifically mentioned every day since the meeting. We've had soap and clean facilities every day, but what we think is happening is when the field gets a heavy use baseball field, if they haven't filled the soap up at the beginning of the day, you just go through it real quick. So we're just going to add a second soap dispenser in every bathroom and a Purell as well outside. And we do go to it every morning. But
What about hand drying?
the hand drying, we're going to make sure we have in every bathroom that has electricity. There's one bathroom without electricity. We're looking at adding solar so we can put the hand drying in there. We don't want to add either the ringers that you pull through or paper towels, but we can add hand dryers. And
Because that's what I was getting at last week, is sometimes there is soap, and there's never hot water, but there's soap and cold water, but there's nothing to dry your hands on. So you're drying your hands on things which are palpably, dirty.
the grass.
So,
Every restroom will have a hand electronic heated hand dryer added to it.
Okay, great.
There's one bathroom without electricity, so we are going to try and install solar on it.
which one is that?
That's the one out at Bailey Canyon. Or it's wired for electricity, but it's actually not connected.
Okay. Well, I think this is a good list. I mean,
Yeah.
I hope that we are able to fund them all with the Measure A and the Quimby fees. So, with that, motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thank you for this. We'll move on to now item number 4, which is consideration of resolution 1933, calling and giving notice, holding a consolidated special municipal election to be held on November 5th, 2019.
Thank you, Mayor. On April 18th, a citizens-led group filed a notice of intent to circulate a petition with the city clerk's office. In response to that notice, the city attorney's office drafted a title and summary of the proposed measure pursuant to California Government Code 9203. The citizen group subsequently published the notice in the April 27th edition of the local adjudicated newspaper. On May 31st, the citizens group submitted their assigned petitions to the city clerk's office for prima facie examination of the signatures, and the city clerk's office forwarded the petitions to the county clerk's office for examination and certification of those signatures. The county clerk's office determined that 930 signatures were verified. Of those signatures, 827 were found sufficient. Only 815 were required for the ballot measure to approve for consideration. So the city council may accept the qualified citizen ballot initiative and schedule the ballot initiative on either a special municipal election. There are 2 options for a special election: November 5th of this year and March 3rd of next year. The third option is a regularly scheduled municipal election of November of next year. The financial cost to conduct a special election is roughly estimated between $150,000 and $200,000. These costs include election services from the county for conducting the election, for certifying the election. It includes election consultant services, poll center workers, inspectors, and other costs. But those are the main costs. The cost of the election was not previously budgeted in the approved fiscal year 1920 budget, and will require council approval for the expenditures from the general fund. It is recommended that the city council provide direction regarding any modifications to the resolutions before you. And it should be noted that 2 of the resolutions have been amended, and they're on the dais. They were amended before today's meeting to include minor changes. 1933 and Resolution 36, excuse me, were amended. 1936, we changed the words from statewide to local. And on 1933, the verbiage for the question that will be placed before the voters was slightly amended as well.
Mayor, also on 1933, the amendments that were made in the box, if council chooses to approve this, we would want the 1936 amended similar.
Right.
That didn't make the late change.
Right. No, that was going to be my first question. And can we just get some clarification from the city attorney on what is 1936 doing versus 33? And we can ask other questions while you.
Yeah,
while you
I'm
go
just,
through 'em.
I'm
Yeah.
reminding myself.
Yeah,
of
no,
them.
that's fine. Take your time. I just want to start this off by saying thank you so much to the volunteers who actually got this ballot measure qualified and able to be in front of the city council for us to consider this. And some of them are here, Pat and Dee Alcorn. Some are not. Some are. Some lifted a lot heavier than others, and they know who they are. And this was a really a huge team effort by a lot of dedicated people. And so I just want to thank everyone for all the help and good work on it. And I do want to say that the one question has come up as to whether this will apply, if it were to pass, to online retailers, so the Amazons of the world. And I don't know what the answer to that is under current state law. I know that as this is written, the proposed petition as it's presented to the city council, I'm not sure if it does.
Well, first to answer your question on the resolutions, and then I'll get to the internet sales issue. Resolution 1933 actually submits the question to the voters. So you're calling a special election with that. The other resolution is a request to the county to consolidate your special election with other local elections. And I will say that it is highly likely that the city of South Pasadena will have a similar ballot measure on as a special election also on November 5th. So there's at least one other special local election that would be consolidated with this one, should you go forward with tonight's resolutions.
Okay.
As for the change in the law, it's not, I will say it's not a very well drafted piece of legislation. What it does say, the way that it's intended to apply is that if you are an internet seller, so you're selling, your source of the sale is outside of Sierra Madre. But if you are selling at least $500,000 of merchandise, of retail merchandise anywhere in California, then you are subject to this new law that the state of California legislature passed, which then requires you as an online seller to collect what's known as use tax. Use tax is, we commonly refer to it as sales tax, but it's really, it's like sales tax, but it's the use that the purchaser pays for purchasing something that will be used in a different location. So, so if the online seller, like the Amazon is probably already collecting local sales tax, but if you sell at least 500,000 in the state of California anywhere, then that particular seller under this law would be required to also collect local sales tax, not just California state sales tax, but local sales tax. Here's the problem with the way the law was drafted. The law was drafted in such a way to actually require that language to be inserted in the local tax ordinance. And of course, there is no local tax ordinance that exists today which pre-existed that law that would possibly have included that language. So we are still waiting for the state to clarify that. The clarification may be that cities with local sales or use tax may be permitted to simply add that language, or perhaps, which in my view would be a better way to do it, they will just amend the legislation to clarify that that language isn't really required, because obviously no existing local sales tax would have had the language in it. And that language did not exist when the citizens submitted this ballot measure, so I don't feel that we can just drop it in.
Okay, so and that was gonna be my next question was gonna be whether we can do anything about that now to insert the language. It sounds like the answer is no.
I don't think that we can, but once it goes to the voters, should the council approve this action tonight, and if the voters approve it, then we will be looking further to the state legislature to qualify why that language is in there, and they may well amend it to clarify that.
Okay. I do want to kind of give I want to make sure that everyone knows what was amended for the ballot language and just clarify what exactly, substantively, I think it's pretty much the same, but I think the upshot of it is this is just a little bit more straightforward in terms of what the money will be spent on and how, in order to explain to the voters where exactly the sales tax will be going to the general fund. But can you just give some background on why this was amended?
Correct. The original description of the question, which was prepared in advance of tonight's council meeting for your consideration, and up to the point where you take action on it, you can change that language. It's nothing more than a description of the ballot question, which is intended to inform and help the person who's going to vote so they know what they're voting for. And of course, it's 75 words or less. Because this is a general tax, it can only be used for general purposes, that is to say general fund purposes. But general fund purposes in the city of Sierra Madre, as is true in most cities, it provides for a wide variety of services that the community enjoy. It provides for all police services, your park and rec type of services, fire, public safety, just to name a few things. And so the amended language, which is up for your consideration, is a better description of the kinds of things in Sierra Madre that the general fund money is actually spent on. So it's a transparency measure.
Well, let me comment, because I'm the one that made the suggestion, and my intent, I have copies here, was to talk about it. I didn't really, I should have clarified that when I shot it in the email that I was going to bring it up to for discussion here. I really didn't mean to rewrite it for everybody. So I'll just pass this out, and you guys can mark it up if you have better suggestion, because that's all it was meant to be. So.
And that's our process. That's actually our process. It's just that we've, with Mayor Pro Tem Capocha's help, he's submitted, just to make it easier on everybody, an option. But that is the purpose of this agenda item, is for all of you to look at the ballot question and see if you like it or if you want to change it. But we are limited to 75 words.
The first draft I had was 98 words, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I like how it reads. My only suggestion was going to be to potentially, I don't know if it's grammatically correct, but put semicolons instead of commas in certain places. So, to maintain police, fire, and paramedic response times, semicolon, maintain police patrols, emergency planning and response, semicolon, provide for parks, streets, sidewalks, and parkway trees, library services, recreation programs, senior programs, and general finances, comma. So I just to, because I think I think it reads nicely, but I think that the semicolons will just let people kind of breathe in between each clause, so.
It's proper.
But I don't know, I mean, I'm going back to like 7th grade grammar as to
It's
whether we're
separating
allowed to do that.
sentences. No, you are.
It doesn't have to be grammatically correct, it just has to make sense and not exceed 75 words. But I think this is, either way, I think it's grammatically correct.
Good.
It's clear too. It's very clear,
Yeah, it's
straightforward.
good. So that would be my only, just with the semicolons, I thought it was great. Any other questions or comments on any of this?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for taking a stab at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I think that online retailer question is gonna be significant. I think that we spend a lot of money, I mean, every city does, but Sierra Madre is no different on online retail. So I think that would be a significant windfall for local governments and their general funds, so.
I would think the League of California Cities would make that like one of their highest
Yeah.
priorities, and maybe we need to say
They will.
something to make sure that they understand.
I
They
agree.
don't, I can't imagine that they don't understand how
Are
important
you still on the
it is.
board or no?
No, I'm not
No.
on the board anymore, but I'd be happy to relay that message,
Okay,
and I can report back.
great. Let's open this up, public comment, questions, and then we can bring it back for final discussion.
Just want to thank you all for all your hard work. But, and I haven't had a chance to see the amendment, but when we were passing out the petition, there were a lot of questions about where is this money going, and so I think the addition is very well worthwhile.
Why don't we read it, so.
Yeah, I can, let me, just to clarify, I don't know if there's any other public comments, but here's what the ballot language will actually read. The title is Sierra Madre Public Safety, Parks, Facilities, and City Services Measure. To maintain police, fire, and paramedic response times, maintain police patrols, emergency planning and response, provide for parks, streets, sidewalks, and parkway trees, library services, recreation programs, senior programs, and general finances, shall the City of Sierra Madre establish a 3/4 cent sales tax until ended by voters, providing approximately $225,000 annually, with all revenue remaining in Sierra Madre for the benefit of its residents. So that is the question that'll be submitted, and it's exactly 75 words. So I think it's good. And I think we want to, why this is, I think is it's such a proud moment for us to do this is because all of our peer cities declared a fiscal emergency to get a similar measure on their ballots. And I think that's one of the things that our residents are going to learn throughout this ballot process is that we are not alone in potentially putting this on a ballot. A lot of our peer cities have already done it, and they're going to do it. As the city attorney said, South Pasadena will probably be with us. But all of them took a different route, and we took a much harder route, the citizens of this community, and I think the response was very telling. But I think that the process itself was extremely impressive. And win or lose, whether this passes or not, I think, that does set us apart. Even though this is something that other cities are doing, I think we did it very differently. So kudos to, again, the citizens that did this. So with that, I think we can, we'll take a vote unless anyone, I'm trying to give more time for counting, so.
Oh, did we
Stalling
open
here.
public?
We opened
we
it in
did.
Pat, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take the vote and then we can take a short recess and hear about the tally, so. The two resolutions, I'll take, someone can move both at once, as amended.
Okay, well, I'll move as amended, and again, as you said, just, we have to be sure that I think it appears in the question appears in 3 places here, so we just need to, okay.
Okay, move both resolutions as amended, that's the motion, do I have a second?
Was there as
There are 4 resolutions.
There's 4, is that right? 1933, 1936, I'm missing,
33, 34, 35,
Ah,
and 36.
okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
So-
yeah, because the others were for the.
That's right.
Resolution number 1934 allows for
Mm.
the council to provide arguments, and resolution number 1935 provides for the council to authorize rebuttal arguments.
Great.
And do we need to decide on when we're gonna have, if we're gonna do a special election tonight, or do
Oh,
we do
that's
that?
right, we have to decide that too, right?
Well, as it's presented, we would be doing the special on November 5th, 2019, as it's written.
Or, Resolution 1933 provides for November 5th, but the council may modify the drafted resolution if they so desire.
Yeah, I assume that we're okay with that, but.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was just going to ask for clarification from Mayor Pro Tem's motion, if that includes the minor recommendation to add the semicolons, which I would be in favor of.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm an engineer, he's a lawyer.
Well done.
So I'll second with a friendly amendment of the semicolons.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous. So thank you very much. So we'll see this on a ballot. I assume that we'll speak more at future meetings about rebuttal and the arguments and everything, but,
What's the timeline for entering the arguments for and against?
I have to look it up. It's in the resolution. I believe it's in August. Let me just
So-
double check.
I think we should probably get that ball rolling right now before vacations and all that.
we should if it's in August, because we'll be dark.
I believe it's August 5th and August 15th, but I need to double check that.
This August 15th?
Yes, next month.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, so we wanna get started.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll volunteer to work with the mayor and
Sure.
have a draft and, let's see, are we gonna have another opportunity to have everybody approve it, or do we have to do it like last time? Which is basically, we're gonna
Trust
draft
you.
it and you sign it or not.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to do,
Yeah.
because if we want to submit it.
Is that right?
I'm in support of that.
council meeting before?
Oh, we do. We do have another one.
Oh, we do have a July 25th.
It's Hawaiian shirt day.
It's Hawaiian Shirt
Right.
Day, you're right.
Okay,
So
well,
we'll get
let's-
it done before then.
Yeah, let's do that.
I've
so
been
that
looking
we
forward to
can-
that, actually.
The rebuttal, though, will probably, the rebuttal, if that is due in August, we'll have to,
Yeah. Okay, well, that's great, then we can collaborate on it. I'll
we do it
put-
the next 2 weeks, yeah.
Do a draft. And
Great. Okay, well, I'm not gonna adjourn the meeting, I'll just do a brief recess while we await the tabulation, and then we can adjourn, so folks can, yeah.
fine. That's the case.
Are they identical, the results? Okay. We're re-adjourning at 7:10.
Okay.
Mayor Harabedian, the tabulations for the Proposition 218 ballots have concluded. Both the NBS and city staff have identical results on the tabulation. The yes votes were 20,809.70, and the no votes are 27,567.65. So the proposition will not pass.
Okay. Well, that's disappointing news. Is there a percentage roughly voters that, I mean, I get the dollar value, but there seemed to be a much higher stack of raw votes against. So do we have that type of percentage breakdown, or I'm not going to put you on the spot. If you have it, then okay.
The number of ballots in favor were 42. The number of ballots in opposition were 46.
Oh.
The proposed or the weighted in favor is 43% as opposed to 57%.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Well, there's nothing for us to do other than receive that information at this point. Okay. Well, sorry, Madam City Clerk. I do think that we'll, before we adjourn, we'll want to re-agendize this item for a future council meeting to discuss steps going forward. Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
Do you
I'm
think?
sorry, my recollection is that the actual collection of the existing assessments, since people did not vote for the consolidated new assessment, that means the existing assessments stand. And my understanding is that that is agendized for your very next council meeting.
Okay.
That's correct. We'll be asking council to certify the 4 districts and move forward as we had previously. So again, we'll be collecting more money than we need, which is the odd part of the 218
And people will
process.
pay more
Correct.
now than they would have paid had they voted for this.
Well, I think if we do it in the
don't
future,
think they
we'll just.
understood that.
Yeah, I think we need to communicate that better next time.
That's right. We somehow just we're not effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other items for future agendas? Mr. Goss, Councilmember Goss had one. It's escaping me, but
The Sierra Madre Library Foundation presentation on the second meeting in September, if we could.
okay. Anything else? All right. Motion to adjourn by anyone?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All's in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Mayor, you're not even signed.